Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Today we are going to be doing our July 2024 Disney Lorcana Market recap. This is the first time doing a video like this. I really would like some feedback on if it's valuable, if it's not. I can expand what we've done here. I'm kind of doing a sample of cards that I'm interested in and products that I'm interested in. I could expand it if you guys feel like there's use for it and you would benefit from it. If not, then this might be a one-time deal, which is completely fine. But the goal of this video is to just give us an idea of kind of, like I said, I pick cards that I'm interested in and sealed products that I'm interested in, but they're all top cards, top products, and really get an idea of what the highs, the lows of raw copies, graded copies, how often are they getting a gem mint grade, just kind of like for lack of a better term, look at the KPIs or key performance indicators of specific cards or products. And just once again, give us an idea of how they did in July, and maybe we start to stack list month over month if we continue doing it to kind of see what kind of cycles or trends we can identify with this data and more of a long-term time frame. But in this particular video, looking at it at just a small sample size, 1 month, what did July look like for these particular items? I think overall in July, I think just kind of that continued retrace of the restock and the additional supply hitting the market has just kind of continued to hit Lorcana. The underlying principles haven't changed. In my opinion, I think that about 90% of Lorcana is either a buy or a hold right now. I personally would not be selling much. The only thing I'm really grading is PSA 10 copies that I feel like I can get, that I have raw copies of, that I can get another 10 if I send it in. That's pretty much my selling strategy right now. Apart from that, I'm just acquiring and holding, and I think that's probably the path forward for me, at least. I will say, obviously, right now I'm recording this on Tuesday, the 6th of August. There's a lot of turmoil going on in the traditional financial markets. A lot of pending real world stuff going on that could impact this little cardboard niche that we've built here. Lot of real stuff going on in the world, and so that might have impacts here, right? There's looms of recession and lots of just blood in the streets in terms of the traditional financial markets. With that being said, I will still continue to acquire. Nothing has changed in my near term, short term view. I think that the majority of cards in Lorcana right now are, like I said, either a buy or a hold. With that being said, the first card that we're going to look at here today is the Enchanted Elsa from the first chapter, kind of the queen of Lorcana, the Grail chase card that's coming out of the set cards, Elsa, Spirit of Winter. So we'll start with the raw data. For the month of July, the market price on TCG Player right now is $868. The lowest sale that happened in July for a near mint copy was $699. The highest sale for a near mint raw copy that happened was $924. I will say with that listing, it did have photos with it, and so it was a raw copy with photos. But that might, if someone bought that and paid more of, they paid what, $50 over market, almost $250 over the low buy. That it probably was pretty minty, and so that person was probably taking a chance at getting it graded, and then it's going to sell for somewhere in the 1500 range. So 924 was the lowest raw copy near mint sale. Like I said, 868 market. Elsa was up around like 1300 for a near mint copy back in like March and April. The set championships happened for Into the Inklands, and we saw that restock, and everything kind of dropped from there, right? So she's down. In reality, the market price is down like 30-40% from its all-time highs. Your guess is as good as mine, and when it gets back, I'm not in the business of really telling you guys what to do with your money per se, and I have no interest in it. I'm just kind of categorizing these cards of what I think they are right now, right? What am I doing? I do have Elsa as a buy, just because anytime you have a staple like this that has seen that 30 to 40% decrease, I'm of the opinion that it's probably the right time to enter, more so than when it gets back up to its all-time highs. And so if you're in the market for an Elsa, I would say it's a buy. If you're not, then don't buy it, right? Buy what you like. That's kind of I say that every time I'm talking about what to buy or whatever. I just would rate this card as a buy at the current market price of $868. You can get listings for quite a bit cheaper than that right now. I think there's some near mint copies around like 750, maybe even down to like closer to 700. Now, when we get into the PSA data, and I looked at PSA because they have the most data, right? That's where the majority of people grade their cards. I would say they're probably the benchmark of the graded industry. It's just where we can get the best data. For PSA 10 of as of today, there are 1,776 in population. Those are Gem Mint 10 Elsas. It gets a Gem Mint 10 grade 71% of the time. So if you send in 10 Elsas, in all likelihood, you're going to get 7 back that are a PSA 10 Gem Mint copy. The low sale for July on eBay was $1,250, and the high sale was $1,600. So this card has been graded a ton. It gets a Gem Mint grade a ton. Its PSA 10 value has came down quite a bit. It was selling for over 2,000. It was selling, I think, for over 3,000 even for a little bit. And so now it's down around, 1,250 on the low end, 1,600 on the high end. If you are in the market for a Gem Mint grade, I would say just throw out some lowball offers or look for an auction. Things are trending down as we go into August, early August. So I think you could probably even get it cheaper than the 1,250, which quite honestly, it might not be a bad buy. It's even just get in the Gem Mint 10, even though it grades at such a high rate. But that's kind of the story of the Elsa. Look, this card has a lot of copies. It's got the most Gem Mint copies of any card in Lorcana. But it's also got a lot of demand, right? And so while I traditionally would fear away from a card that's like, the highest graded card, with that being said, there's a reason why it's been graded so many times. There's a lot of people that want this card. It's a gorgeous card. It's an iconic IP. It's one, like, once again, my kids, like, they resonate with Elsa. They resonate with Frozen. They've seen that movie a ton. Not so much my son, but once again, I've told the story before. I showed him our Enchanted Elsa, and he knew immediately who it was, and he's never even seen Frozen. He goes to daycare. They have movie days. I'm pretty sure they probably saw it there, but, that's just anecdotal. He's never even seen it here at the house, really, and he knew immediately who it was. So that's why it's been graded so much. That's why the demand is so high. And at the end of the day, while I'm looking for cards that are more scarce and a little bit more rare, demand is the biggest driver, right? And so there's a reason this card has been graded as much as it has. All right, moving on to Cinderella, Ballroom Sensation. Cinderella's first Enchanted that came in set 2, Rise of the Floodborn. The market price for this card right now is $262. Its low sale for the month of July was $245 for a raw copy. High sale was $290 for a raw copy. Overall, this is down once again that kind of 40 to even 50% here. I'm pretty sure Cinderella's market price was up over 500. There was a lot of the time. It was the second highest card behind Elsa was the Cinderella, and we're talking about set cards specifically. And so she has fallen off a little bit here. I think there's quite a few cards from Chapter 1 that are above her. I don't think that should be the case. This is a card that if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of. I personally am a huge fan of this card graded. When we look at the Elsa, remember that it was 1,776 copies in existence. Right now, the PSA 10 count for Cinderella is 572. With that being said, I don't say that to say that, like, there's a lot less cards of this graded, and so that makes it inherently more rare. Because I think that as the value goes up, it would get graded more, and these population counts never get married to them because it's always going to go up. It's literally always going to go up. But with that being said, why I love this card is because I am of the belief that set 2 was printed significantly less than set 1, simply because set 2 never had a reprint. We've had, or at least a confirmed reprint. We've never heard Ravensburger say anything about a reprint for set 2. It's taken a long time to get back to MSRP, and so I doubt that we see one, to be completely honest. But we did see a massive reprint for set one. And so I am of the belief that there are significantly more copies of the first chapter out there than there is of Rise of the Floodborn. And so with that being said, when we look at this 572 number, in terms of where did this population end? Is it, like 750? I definitely think it's sub 1,000 in my opinion. And so with that being said, when we look at the gem mint rate of a 46%, this card is very hard to grade. And the fact that there's not that much of a premium on the PSA 10 version of this card. High sale was $290. I got to quit right clicking. I apologize. High sale was $290. PSA 10 high sale was $580. To me, when you incorporate the gem mint rate, this card is a graded buy specifically for me right now. Getting it raw and grading it, I think is an okay play. But at the end of the day, this card grades so incredibly harshly. It's so incredibly rare when you compare it to like the Elsa. In my opinion, I think this artwork is gorgeous. I think that the demand of this card as Lorcana continues to grow is going to be significant. And so this is one of the cards that, in terms of like going out and buy a graded copy of a card, I think you can't really miss a $350 PSA 10 copy, even a $580 PSA 10 copy. I feel like both those prices are fair. The $350 is obviously a steal. That's barely above what people are paying for a raw copy, and it grades incredibly, incredibly hard. So I'm all for Cinderella. I think it's a great purchase right now as we look at it in July. Moving on to another card that I think is a great purchase. Looking at the Stitch Rockstar. This is the first trophy card ever awarded within Lorcana. It was awarded to the top 4 at the set championships from season 1, or the first store championships. The market price for this card is $318. The low sale was $290 for the month of July. High sale for a raw near mint copy was $417. The PSA counts, there is 327 in population. There is 40. It gets a gem mint grade 45% of the time, so even harder to grade than the Cinderella there. Your PSA 10 low sale was 810. Your PSA 10 high sale was about 1200. And so overall, I think this card is once again a card that, this card was being bought and sold very consistently for over $700 for a while after it came out. It wasn't just that in the beginning. In the beginning, it was over $1,000 consistently. People were paying $1,200 for this card in a raw copy. When we look at it now, down at $318, I think that that's a significant retrace, and once again, one that I would definitely be in the market for as a buyer. I would not be selling these cards right now. I think the better times are ahead, especially once again when I'm looking at these pieces of cardboard. I'm looking at it from a very long-term time horizon, and at the end of the day, I think 10 years from now, when we look back and say this was the first trophy card ever awarded, it's very hard to grade. There's a very low population number, even if it's sub 1,000, sub 750. I think that that's going to be a very, very few amount of copies whenever you think about the grand scheme of things. To put it in perspective, to compare it to like something like Pokemon, not an apples to apples comparison. This is a trophy card, not a a card that has as much demand as I'm going to mention. But just to give you an idea of like population count, when you look at the Moonbryon, kind of like the modern day Charizard for Pokemon. The last time I looked at the graded count, I think there was over 12,000 gem mint copies in existence. So when you think about like 12,000 versus 327, or when you look at the Cinderella 572, if you are of the same mindset as me and you think that Lorcana is going to continue to grow and evolve and has this just incredibly big TAM or addressable market, I think that 327 is a very low number for the first trophy card that was ever awarded. Iconic IP, iconic character. Nicholas Cole knocked this art out of the park. It's one of my favorite cards in Lorcana. And so I can't really say enough about the Stitch. I think it's a tremendous purchase right now. This is one that I would probably scoop up a couple of raw copies and try and grade it myself, even though it does grade pretty poorly, just because there is a decent premium on the PSA 10 copy. Versus when you look at the Cinderella, once again, someone sold a PSA 10 for $350. That's just above market. When you look at this card, the 10 is still getting a decent premium when you look at it from the low and high sales. So That's where we're on the Stitch. Moving on to another Stitch, Carefree Surfer, a first chapter Enchanted. Market price right now is $276. Low sale $247, high sale $293 for a raw near mint copy for the month. This continues the same trend. Any of our set cards have really gone through the same process, to be honest, or retracement. They started and you know, those cards had over $500 market price for a long time. Restock happened, what came down significantly. So we're at, you know, 40 to 50% of a retrace on this card. I think it's a beautiful card. I think it's going to do great long term. I mean, that art is it's gorgeous. So I'm a huge fan of it. And 276 seems like a very fair price point whenever you're looking at the market price. You can see there's not a ton of variance with this card. There's not a ton of sales. And so that leads me to believe that there might, you know, it's either people are going to start buying it or the people who are selling it are going to get paper hands and part with it for even cheaper. But you can see it's got a very tight window. 276 market price, you know, $20, 20, 30 bucks down, you get your low sale, 20, 30 bucks higher, you get your high sale. There's just not a lot of variance with this card when you look, when we compare it to every other card. And so I definitely think that 276 is a fair price. If you can get it for sub 250, you know, obviously even better. And I'll be interested to see in August how this card performs, because I remember when I looked up the data for this card, there was maybe only like 20 sales, if that. Like, I just remember it didn't take me a long time to expand it, and so I think that overall this has a decent chance of going down. So just simply because of how much of how many of them were purchased. With that being said, for the PSA data for this card, we are at 776 or 763 total population count. We have a 60% gem mint rate. We have a $500 low PSA 10 sale. We have a $700 PSA 10 high sale. This card grades a little bit harder than some of the other Enchanteds from the first chapter. 60% is quite a bit lower than when you talk about the Elsa at the 70%. Some of the first chapter Enchanteds are even close to 80%. So this card does grade a little bit harder. Now, with that being said, it's still getting a gem mint grade over 50% of the times. Nothing too crazy. Overall population count 763. Not the highest, not the lowest. But when you keep in mind, we have that Elsa benchmark of that 1700 number. Now, this card grades a little bit higher, but if you put it in a perspective of if this card had the same price point as the Elsa, you're probably looking at, you know, 1,500 of these in a PSA 10 copy right now, just with the current supply. So I think this has a lot of legs on it in terms of growth of graded cards. And I think that if and when this card does pick up momentum and the market kind of rebounds, I think they're going to see a lot more of these get graded because it's going to, you know, as the cards increase in value, brings them out of the collections, brings them out of the binders, brings them out of the, you know, cases, whatever, gets them sent to PSA and hit the market. So overall, I think that in terms of this card, this is another card that I wouldn't mind paying the PSA 10 if you can get it for 500 or cheaper. I think that's really fair, given, you know, 60% gem mint rate. It's not the highest by any means, but I'm also just a huge fan of this card and definitely a buyer as it relates to this card, because I think it's just a sick card, to be completely honest. It's an awesome card. All right, looking at our Ursula Sea Witch Queen. So this is our set championships that just happened. Let me see here. Okay, I messed up my slides on this one. This one I do not have as a buy. Let's go through the data first, though. So our market price right now is $133. Our low sale for this card was $122, and our high sale was $450. This is a good reminder of do not FOMO in whenever you are going to buy these cards. The first copies are always going to be the most expensive copies, and unless very rare circumstances is that not the case. And so paying $450 for this card was definitely a no-no. And just, we don't have the data yet because it's not in July, so I didn't include it. There were no PSA 10 copies in July. There were a couple PSA 9 copies that sold for like $150, I think. But I think that people were paying this $450 price because the first couple sold for like $450, then like high 300s, and there were quite a few sales in that range. Those people are typically the people who are buying these cards, immediately sending them express to PSA to get them back and sell the first PSA 10 on the market. as you can see, this card grades incredibly hard. Very small sample size. We'll see what shakes out. But the first couple were very hard. There were like 12 10s and like 30, like 9s and 8s or something. So it graded very poorly. So it's very likely that someone paid $4.50 for this card. They paid probably $50 or $60 in grading fees to get it to PSA and get it back quick. And then they got a 9 and sold it for, 100, 150 bucks. So this card does look to, it appears that it's grading very harshly. Once again, we need much more data. There was only 30 or 40 graded at the time. But at the end of the day, I would say this is probably a hold. I am not buying this card right now because I think we're going to see cheaper prices than the 133. I'm also not selling it if I had the card because I would want more than the 133. And so my, where I'm at right now as a buyer is really just holding because I think the price is going to come down. But once again, if I had the card, I would not be selling it. So that is where I'm at with the Ursula Sea Witch Queen set championships from Ursula's Return. Moving on to Ursula Deceiver Evolve. So the Enchanted from Into the Inkland, set 3. This card has been a chase card. It's been a card that that's been in the top like 5-ish cards since it's been released in terms of market price. Right now it's sitting at $262. Its low sale is $219. Its high sale is $333 for the month for a raw copy. This is an interesting card where the market price is at $262. And its like high was around like $330. This is one that it wasn't really impacted by the restock of set 1 and set 2 since it kind of came out when that was happening. And so the overall market price really hasn't changed that much. Now the low sale, people partying with it for $219, that's down, about $100 from where it was. But the market price truly has not retraced as much as what we've seen with the other cards. Those huge retracements of that 40 to 50% number really stuck with Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 or Set 2. Not so much with the Into the Inkland set. So with the PSA 10 count on this card, you're looking at 277 total pop of PSA 10 Gem Mint grade. The PSA 10 Gem Mint rate is 50% for this card. The low PSA 10 sale was $255 for July, which is a steal. That's lower than the market price. So someone got a card that grades at a 50% clip for $255. Cheers to them. You can definitely find deals on eBay, right? Go out there, send some lowball offers, catch someone in a pinch who's willing to part with this card for $255. Very good purchase. The high sale was almost double the low sale at $494. So this is a card that I would definitely say is probably a hold as well. I personally, I don't think I would be a buyer of this card right now, just because I feel like, I don't know, to me, and look, this is just, this is my opinion, but I feel like this card has been overpriced from the jump. I honestly, this is one that I don't even necessarily care to have. We have it in our collection. I pulled it myself. I haven't gotten it graded yet, but I don't know. This is one that I was very surprised to see how much of a premium it's maintained since coming out. So clearly the market disagrees with me there, but I personally would probably be a seller or a holder of this card, not a buyer at the current rate. Unless you can get it down in this like 219 range, I think that's probably fair. But overall, I think that there's no need to overreact and go out and get this card, because I don't know. I just feel like there could be lower times ahead. At the end of the day, if you think this card is sick, the art's definitely cool. Go out and get it. It is what it is. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Just in my personal opinion, I think this is probably more of like a sell or a hold, unless you get it at 219. 219, I would be a buyer at that price point. But once again, a card that is very hard to grade. I would not pay too much attention to the 277 number, because it is, once this card does go up in value, you'll see a lot more of these come out to get graded. This pop is it'll be over 1,000 at some point, I believe. A lot of them haven't gotten graded because a lot of people just haven't gone to sell this card yet due to value or whatever the reason is. There's going to be a lot more than 277 out there. So that is where I'm at with the Ursula. Now looking at the first chapter sealed case, so getting into some of the sealed products. For this, obviously we have no PSA data, right? This is just the raw data from TCG Player. $861 is our market price for this card. $768 is our low price for this case card. Sorry, we're wearing down here. Minute 25 straight of rambling. We're wearing down. Let me reset here. $861 is our market price for this case, and this is, once again, a case is 4 booster boxes sealed from the factory in the actual case that they come in. $861 market. Low sale of $768, high sale of $940. So there's quite a bit of variance in this product for a 30-day sample size. I think $861 is a fair price for this case. I would definitely be a buyer at that price. The story really with the first chapter and the first set and the second set in terms of the sealed stuff is how many of these do they have in the warehouse, in the facility, wherever it's at, the airport hangar. How many of these do they have, and how many continued restocks can they do? Because as soon as those dry up with as much volume and sales that are happening for these particular products, they're going to be going up pretty quick. And so that's really the determining factor. Whenever we do our set championships for set 5 for the Mirabelle Enchanted, do we get another restock of first chapter? Do we get another restock for Rise of the Floodborn? If not, I think we're going to be seeing some pretty high prices here, and that would make the 861 look very, very friendly. This case, it did have a high sale of $1,500 back before the restock, so we've seen it double this price, right? So when you think about how much it sells, how much demand there is for it, we've got it. You would think we're coming to the tail end of a restock, but I have no data to back that up. $861 seems like a decent price to me, especially $768. That's a fantastic buy. Going into the individual booster boxes for the first chapter, so just one box. Our market price is $230 right now. Our low sale for the month was $199. Our high sale was $240. I wouldn't overreact to that $199 sale. That was more or less just stores got their allocations for set championships, their restock, and some people are just looking to get rid of them as fast as possible. So they sold them at $199. We had some go for $240. Right now we're sitting at $230. Same mindset as the sealed case applies here. An insane sell-through rate with this box. If you look at the chart on TCG Player, every 2 to 3 days, you are seeing 20 to 30 boxes sell in those time periods. And so I think overall, this box is probably going to be going up sooner rather than later. I would definitely buy it if you have an interest in holding it long term. I think it's a buy right now. And then, we could see it come back down to that $220 price point where it likes to hang out at after these restocks. It just depends on, when that is going to run out. Because if that set 5 championship comes, the event happens, stores don't get the restocks that they have been, this box is going to shoot up very, very fast. Moving on to set 2 and closing us out here, Rise of the Floodborn. Market price for a sealed case is $500 right now. Low sale $489, high sale $523. Definitely a box that is trending up. Overall listings for this box are very low. That's why you see such a tight gap in the market price, the low sale and the high sale. There's not a lot of them on the market. That leads me to believe that we're running lower on total supply in terms of restocks and things like that from the Ravensburger side of things. And this is one where the individual boxes have begun to creep back up to MSRP. I think right now the lowest Rise of the Floodborn box is around $150 on the market today. And so when you look at the sealed cases and the market price being $500, this is one of the few times where there's a massive discrepancy there. If you were to go and buy 4 individual boxes, you're looking at around $600, give or take, to get up to a sealed case. Right now, the market price for the sealed case is $500, low sale $489, high sale $523. If you are looking to get into set 2, I think going out and getting a sealed case of it right now makes a lot of sense versus buying an individual booster box. And so I would definitely say that this is a buy in my opinion. When we look at the individual booster box, once again, for July, the market price $133, low sale $120, high sale $143. I think that, once again, when we look at the box right now, it's around $150, and we'll actually go look at that to close us out here. Let's filter to sealed. I'm curious where the box is and if those prices are still, if it's still the same. So 500, 16 listings, 500 for Rise of the Floodborn. You've got 3 available, then it goes up to 515. And you've got, look, there's plenty available, right? These don't have a ton of quantity. 3, 2, 1, 2, etc. So there's not a ton of quantity here, but that gets us up to 555 for the sealed case. There's plenty of cases, but when we look at the individual boxes, 147 all in when you look at shipping and the price, and they're selling at that price, right? Some sold yesterday for 149. So I think that buying a case of Floodborne makes a ton of sense right now. One of the few times where that is the case. So that's gonna wrap it up. Like I said, I want to do kind of just like a snapshot of July for you guys. Looking for some feedback here. Do you feel like that was beneficial? Do you feel like it was overkill? Is there different cards you would like implemented? Let me know your thoughts. Obviously, it took a little bit of time to do the digging and whatnot, but I like to see that stuff, right? I really like the idea of having that data for next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and kind of looking at the trends and seeing what is happening month over month. I'm very excited for whenever the next bull cycle comes to see what kind of the possibility is of some of these cards and how quickly they get back to their all-time highs, because we've seen some pretty significant retraces. So I don't even think it's guaranteed that we get back to all-time highs during the next bull cycle. I think we might see a little bit of a bump and then another retrace. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, please give me your feedback on what you think of the video and the content here, and then I'll kind of make a determination on if this is something we want to do at the beginning of every month, kind of looking back at the previous month, or if this is just kind of a one and done deal essentially. So with that being said, guys, I will end it. If you've made it thus far, I have never asked for a subscription. I have never asked for a like, but I am at 666 subscribers. And so if there is anyone out there who hasn't subscribed, you're a fan of my channel, if we could get off this number just for shits and giggles, that'd be great. 666 subscribers. Once again, I've never asked for a subscription. I've never asked for a like, never asked for a membership. I'm a firm believer that if you provide value to the market, you'll be rewarded. And I think that so far I'm very happy with how much the channel's grown. I would have never thought there'd be, that I'd have 109 videos and there'd be this many people who subscribe to me and watch me ramble about Lorcana. Some of my videos are getting like thousands of views, which is pretty crazy. So I've been very happy, but just 666 is a bad number. Let's get off that number if possible. I would greatly appreciate it. If not, no harm, no foul. With that being said, guys, I'm going to be out of town for the remainder of the week, so no more content coming from me, likely until this weekend. Maybe we'll do some Simmering Skies openings, or next week looking at how those cards are performing. Very exciting time to be in Lorcana. Cheers. Good luck to everyone pulling the Mufasa. That is what I will be going for. Cannot wait to get my hands on that card. So with that being said, guys, that's going to be it for us today. We will be back with another video soon. Bye.